There are places in the desert where joy goes to die, places where laughter dries out in the sand and turns into something sharp. On the far side of a dead canyon, beneath a swollen red moon, Rango found one of those places. An abandoned circus. Its tents were torn open like wounds. Its wagons sat half-buried in dunes. Its faded flags whispered in a wind that smelled of ash, old rope, and something that had once been alive. Long ago, animals had come here to clap, to laugh, to believe in wonder. Now the whole carnival stood in silence, blackened by fire, as if the desert itself had tried to erase what happened there, and failed. Rango stepped through the broken gate and into the circus grounds. The carousel still turned, though no one pushed it. Wooden horses rose and fell with a soft creak that sounded almost like crying. Rows of empty seats faced the main tent, their fabric rotten and split, but from somewhere inside them came the faint sound of applause. Slow, weak, endless. In the ash near the ring, Rango found footprints too small to belong to any grown beast. Elephant prints. Fresh. Beside them lay a tiny brass bell tied to a strip of red cloth, blackened by soot. And from deep inside the main tent, behind the shredded curtains and collapsed ropes, came the low, trembling sound of a child elephant trying not to cry. Inside the main tent, the darkness hung low and heavy, thick with smoke that should have vanished years ago. Burned trapeze ropes dangled from the ceiling like dead vines. Cracked mirrors circled the ring, and in every mirror Rango saw movement before he saw the truth. At the far side of the tent stood Red, small, silent, covered in ash. A torn red blanket hung across his back, and a broken chain dragged from one front leg. His eyes were huge and wet and full of a sadness so deep it seemed older than the circus itself. Red did not charge. He did not roar. He only looked at Rango the way lost children look at doors that never open. And in the mirrors around him, the reflection of the little elephant was wrong. In every shard, Red looked burned worse, thinner, deader. Beyond the tent, Rango found the wagons. One for the owls who flew through rings of fire. One for the painted snakes who twisted through the air like ribbons. One for the hyena drummers. One for the fox ringmaster who sold wonder with a smile sharp as a knife. The wagon doors hung open now, their chains melted into the wood. Inside Red's wagon, scratched into the floorboards again and again by a small frightened trunk, was the same picture. A moon, an open desert, and two little figures walking away from the circus together. Whatever happened here, Red had not wanted applause. He had wanted escape. Then the music began, not from a band, from the dark itself. A warped calliope song dragged through the ashes, and one by one the dead performers returned to the ring. Ghost owls swung from burned ropes. Snake acrobats twisted through empty air. Hyena drummers beat on invisible drums with bone-thin paws. And at the center of it all stood Silas Redtail, the fox ringmaster, wearing his torn maroon coat and smiling with the same cruel pride he must have worn on the final night. Red stepped into the spotlight trembling. The little elephant raised one foot as if the old commands still lived in his bones. Then Rango understood the truth. The circus had not died because Red became wild. It had died because Red had tried to break his chains. The fire had started. The tent had collapsed. And the crowd, the performers, the whole terrible carnival had been buried under the last sound they ever made. Applause. Red had not stayed because he was evil. He had stayed because he was waiting for someone kind enough to see what really happened. Waiting for someone to understand that he did not destroy the circus out of rage, but out of pain. A child beast in chains had pulled once for freedom, and the whole rotten world around him had burned. Rango moved through the dead ring, through the music, through the cold applause, and reached the last iron stake driven into the circus floor. Red's chain was still tied to it. Even after death, even after fire, even after silence, the little elephant had never truly been allowed to leave. Rango pulled the stake free, and when the iron came loose from the earth, the music stopped. The tent began to dissolve. Not collapse, dissolve like smoke, remembering it was never solid to begin with. The ghost performers faded one by one. The owls vanished into feathers of ash. The snakes unwound into pale dust. The fox ringmaster's smile cracked apart and blew away on the wind. And Red took one slow step toward Rango. Then another. The little elephant lifted his trunk and touched it gently to Rango's hand. No trampit. No roar. Only silence. The kind of silence that comes after grief has cried itself empty. Then Red's body began to break into glowing embers, each one drifting upward like a tiny lantern searching for the sky. Within seconds, he was gone. All that remained on the burned circus floor was a little brass bell, a strip of red cloth, and footprints that led nowhere. By dawn, the circus was gone. No tents, no wagons, no ring. Only open desert and a circle of black ash where the carnival had once stood. Rango left with the brass bell and the strip of red cloth tied around his wrist. He never spoke much about that place again. But in the nights that followed, strange things began to happen across the desert. Animals reported hearing circus music far away where no road existed. They found tiny elephant footprints in dry dust outside locked homes. And sometimes, when Rango woke just before sunrise, he would hear the smallest sound at his door. A soft bell, a slow breath, and the dragging clink of a broken chain. When he opened the door, no one was ever there. Only one fresh little footprint in the sand, leading not away from the house, but inside.